Uduasha city, where the sun is a mirror and the moon a shadow. 800 years ago, the gates of death were broken by the Emperor Immortal. The 5 key bearers, however, had already unlocked them and walked right through. It is in Uduasha city they dwell. Now, the ghost field breathes next to our reality, lit by the eternal flame of the well of Udu. It is a second skin, a place where thought and will struggle against gravity and light. In other places, the dead congregate in the ghost field, but in Uduasha, the well city, the hell city, they fall straight into the flames. See its glittering districts: Kshitijpur, where the rich plot to buy the horizon; Bunda West, where the refugees of 2 different nations flock; and Pasarhandu, the vertical maze of market and murder. And here is Udepat, where the ceaseless temple resides. Its inhabitants, a family, a snake, and a god. The temple has stood since before the gods of this world were forgotten. Watch as it turns the wheels of revolution. Welcome to Desperate Attune, an actual play podcast about people who take risks so they can survive against the odds.
Hi everyone, it's Zoheb with a recap of the previous episode. Last episode we saw the Chokroborty family pick up the pieces from their encounter in Kingfisher Grotto. While Miraz recovers from his injuries, the newly freed Freya reconnects with people from her past life and unsuccessfully attempts to help her new family at the Ceaseless Temple. Her attempts to reduce the heat on the crew sees the family further indebted to lawyer Hardil. Meanwhile, the Chokroborty family wish to regain favor with their god after the god's avatar, the snake, has shunned them. Abbas discovers that the snake is merely a facet of the god, and perhaps the crew does not need the snake's favor. While making this breakthrough, Abbas and Joan get into an argument with the devotees of the snake, Padmapriya and Padmamukhi, who are turning quite snake-like themselves. And while the snake is no longer important in the temple and the cult, there's still an important meeting to be had, one that the snake had arranged for them. A committee must be assembled to decide the future of the temple. And so, we reconvene.
I have an idea for what my Iruvian cookery clock will do now.
Excellent. Yes, I have seen this idea. It is psychic damage.
Yes, but we would benefit from having someone with like a healing ability. So I think it is genuinely useful.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's good. Just, the best way to weaponize that aspect of Vickers, because making it useful means that I can never say, but why? I know why.
Yes. Look, there are lots of traditional medicinal systems across the world that use some unorthodox food combinations. It's a thing. All right.
Now that we are all here
we are.
This song is just stuck in my head. It's awful. Like, I just needed to leave.
Now you just imagine it much worse.
I mean, yeah, well, Okay, so, committee meeting, finally.
Yes, which we are doing as a score, is it?
Yes. So, before we get into it, what is your goal for this? What is the best possible outcome? What is an acceptable outcome? What kinds of, what is your, your expectation?
I will say that if Miraz were here, this would be a very different. He would have certain expectations and plans for this meeting, and I think it's very funny that he will not be here, and instead Freya will be here. And what Freya wants to do is make Abbas happy.
Great,
good.
He's such a nice man. He's very humble.
Good. Yeah, I do think that if we are running this as a score, we need to define very well like what success means and what obstacles there are, because like I have trouble. I will admit I have trouble visualizing how this is a score, because it's a committee meeting with some of our rivals, yes, but also largely with ourselves. So it's
I mean, we could not make it a score. We could make it free play. I just thought it could be a score in the sense that it's high stakes.
absolutely there are stakes there, but like, does it make sense?
I think
Could
I don't know.
other things happen like as part of the score, like not just us just sitting down at a table, like
Exactly, yeah. I think that's the question,
Yeah.
because there might be stakes to the conversation, but it feels weird to have a whole score that is just us sitting at the table having a conversation.
So who is attending?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's a great question. So, people who are attending are Begum Bashundara, Sheikh Abdullah, Farzana and Rakis, just happens to be there that for her sins. I think Nabila is again happens to be there, but I don't think she's going to come to the committee. Hardil Subramanian and by proxy Munna, but I don't think Munna's going to come to this. I think Hardil's going to come to this. And I think
the stakes here are fairly clear, right? It seems like with all these people, there's a very, very strong chance that we might get muscled out of our own temple.
I think that one way to visualize this is to kind of like make a clock that basically says something like you lose your chance to figure out what's going on in the committee or like direct it, and it will come down to like whoever can like play the other interests as well as they can. And I have no problem telling you that Hardil is definitely the most adept of this group of people. So, if this were to happen, like if this meeting were to happen and you were passive, and Hardil would just gain control of the meeting, in control of the committee, done, right? And he would make whatever compromises he would need to, and so on.
Again, I get that, and I do think there are stakes here, but I just think a conversation is not score worthy. So if this score is only a conversation, I vote we don't treat it as a score and just treat it as free play. We should probably cut all of this meta discussion from the actual podcast later, by the way. But
Yeah. So
I do like my opinion is if it's just a conversation, I think we should frame it as free play, even if the conversation has high stakes, because it just feels like a score has to have more components than just a conversation. But it's possible that there are more components we could introduce, right?
yes, like I was thinking that if this is supposed to be the meeting at which we officially decide what's going to happen to the temple, right? And then like some of the elements could be just ensuring that certain people can't turn up.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, like, and
That
maybe
makes it more
introducing some
score-shaped.
elements, like, yeah, or like another idea I had was like if I knew why Begum Bashundara wanted the temple, like there must be something of value here, right? Like then maybe a little bit of self-sabotage to make the place less valuable might like would also like at least like a bus would consider it, like like if I can't have my temple, no one can.
incredible.
So I'd like this idea. So how about this? And this is me entirely out of character, right? Because Freya has nothing to do with any of this. We have been told to have the meeting.
Yeah.
That is our divine edict, to have the meeting.
Yes.
So if we schedule the meeting, if we have the meeting room, if we put out the kettle for the tea and all of that, if we have the meeting, then we have and we're there. We're all there, right?
Yep.
Then we have fulfilled our end of the bargain, and we have essentially fulfilled their guess, right? It's not our fault that no one else managed to show up.
I should say we rules lawyer our own deity.
Yes.
I think this only works if we let them know that the meeting is happening at a certain time, or at least attempt to, and then also do that in a way that we sabotage our own communication to them, or their ability to be there.
Yeah.
We have to make
Of
sure
course. We have to be sure that that them not showing up is their fault on some level. Like
on some
this is
level
happening.
that
This is
manages to pass the fine print of the divine contract.
Yes. So I think this is a very funny way of approaching it, but I It is undeniably very weird. But sure, it is possible for us to have this meeting in such a way. Does it make sense for our characters to try to do this, though? Does it make sense for our characters to like sabotage people from showing up? Maybe it makes sense for Abbas.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, it can make sense that he comes up with such a plan to like leave out undesirable elements from this
Yep.
meeting. Sure.
Also, if it just makes more sense to just have the meeting and as a free play thing and just kind of see where it goes, that's also fine. We don't have to like twist things to make it fit into a certain structure.
I think basically what I'm asking here is for us to make a decision. Like either we commit to making this a bigger deal or we just play a scene.
I think really I want to leave the thing up to Aadiyat mostly. It seems, and Joan, because they seem to be the ones who have the most stake in this meeting now that Miraz isn't here. In character.
Mm-hmm.
So what would Abbas and Joan want to do?
I think Joan is absolutely on board with the snake's idea of let's change the temple for the better. But I don't think I think she might be against corrupting the spirit of the movie a little bit. But at the same time, she would also not be against making sure that nobody else except for the people in the temple can muscle in on it.
Yeah, and it's not like Abbas was completely opposed to the idea of changing the temple, right? It's just that he wants to change it under his circumstances. He's like, fine, we can put up some curtains. That's all good. If I remember Abbas's opinion on this correctly, right? It was not that he was opposed to changing anything about the temple, it's that he wanted to control the process.
I think the main, like Abbas's main drive here is that he does not trust the, Begum of Nora and this organization, right? Like, he thinks that if we try to have this committee in good faith, then we will lose because they will not have it in good faith. Like, he doesn't trust them, right? Like, now we haven't yet seen why that is, and I guess like he just instinctively doesn't trust them.
Yeah.
And I mean the whole thing is a bit fishy, like the way it started, right? Like, oh, we need to inspect this temple and for development and such, right? Actually, I forget. Like, what was the original? Like, what was the reason they showed up? Like, what did they say? They got permission to redevelop the land.
Yeah. So basically, they got permission to audit the temple to see whether it was quote unquote up to code, with the implication being they would find it wasn't up to code and change the entire thing.
Right. There you go. So, so I think Abbas is not in favor of having this in good faith. Like, he will try to sabotage this in some way. Like, that could be to either just ensure that Moshonhora can't come to the meeting, or figure out what her plans are and then make it so that those can't be implemented. Like, oh, they're like, so whatever it is, maybe he'll flood the basement of the temple so they're like, oh, oops, looks like you can't work can't go ahead here now.
I feel like this sounds like it could, if it were a score, it sounds like it would be one of those heist movies where a half of the team is having a meeting and they're like basically not only stalling for time but actually trying to have a dangerous conversation, while half of the committee has excused themselves to go do heist stuff, or rather flooding the basement, sabotage stuff at the same time.
The other thing, okay, so another way of doing it, maybe another plan would be to have something happen, like say Big Emotional shows up, right? Like, maybe we can have something happen that requires her to be elsewhere, right? So instead of sabotaging us, we cause a complication for her somewhere else, right? And
On
then
the airship.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. And then if she has to urgently leave the meeting, and we're like, oh well, I guess that concludes proceedings, and we've had the meeting, and Or like I mean, the ideal situation would be like we take a vote on what to do, and she's not there to vote, right? And then and we vote in our own favor, and we say that yep, it all happened officially, and there you go.
Are
Yeah.
we doing? It almost sounds like we are doing an airship score followed by a free play committee scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like it could go in that direction, which I'm fine with.
Extremely elaborate setup action.
Yes, that is
Okay.
a whole story to itself. I am generally in favor of doing like some sort of sabotage, just because it sounds more exciting. But yeah, it's again like it's a little bit Abbas taking the initiative on this one. And I think if Abbas is like hold the meeting, keep one of the people from showing up, then that's fine. We'll still have to contend with Hardil, so I think there'll still be stakes in the free play scene.
Yeah.
But if he is the only rogue element, then he can't vote down everyone.
Yeah. Speaking of, so I suppose we'd know ahead of time what the format of this meeting is, right? Like, or who are the people who have a vote? Like, does the temple collectively just get one vote, or?
Okay. So I have thought about none of
then-
this really, and
Okay.
the voting stuff is something that like we can just introduce as something that happens, but like procedurally, what the committee like how it works has not like, really been established because the committee's never met.
Right.
You could declare stuff,
Because I'm saying vote, but that's just an assumption, right? Like there might not even be a vote. It might just be that we
Okay.
have to, because it could
how
be
about
more of a. Sorry, go ahead.
how about this twist? How about it's the committee thing is like a ritual, like they do when they select the pope? Like everyone has to go into some sort of meditative trance or something. So it's like it is a committee meeting, but it's also like a religious or spiritual experience.
Yeah, excellent.
That could put more of an exciting twist on it too, where you're like, one of us will have a vision that the others will then have to like ratify.
So each of you is gonna have a vision that you're gonna claim is divine, and whichever one is most divine wins.
Yeah, I mean,
I would like to show you guys something that I can do.
Okay.
There are for real ecumenical situations that work like this, and yes.
Ooh.
Oh, and Freya has those
Absolutely.
image. Excellent.
So okay, maybe we're onto
It's
something
just
here.
that Abbas didn't want the others to show up, so he scheduled the meeting to be in the ghost field.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's something to be said. I think there's something cool to be said here for having this committee meeting be like occult and dangerous. Like it's not just a committee meeting; it's a religious ceremony that we can then screw around with and get
You have ghost
people to have
echoes,
visions.
so you can
Yeah.
actually interact with the ghost field.
Oh, perfect. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Now that's how we're doing the committee meeting. Obviously, we're having this meeting in the ghost field so that we can accurately interpret the will of our god through mystic spiritual bullshit. We're having a dreamscape score, everyone.
Excellent.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Everyone shows up. They're invited to join hands and in the Sanctum Sanctorum, and we shall astral project.
Yes.
Big wink.
Yeah. No, but I think I like the idea of this being in the ghost field because it does also like
Mhm.
we are still a weird cult. We're not like an everyday housing association. So
Yeah.
it does make a ton of sense that our committee meetings are not just like a boring vote on something, but actually has like spiritual power behind it.
Yeah.
Really
It's very spiritual and very eldritch, and at the same time, we are going to be talking about exactly those things that a housing association will talk about.
Yes.
Eldritch
exactly.
Housing Association, guys. It's fine. It's very normal.
Yes.
I mean, essentially, like when you strip away, like this is essentially a Zoom call via, like,
Yeah, the ghost field.
occult, via the ghost field.
Yes, without the snake avatar now. So now we're communicating directly with some sort of eldritch burning wheel from before time.
Yes.
And asking it what kind of renovation it wants to do.
Yeah. Okay, great. I mean, I'm
Excellent.
glad we have settled on this.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes, good.
Okay. That's the score then.
Okay, so it's an
invite everyone
arcane
to the
score?
ghost field, and yeah,
It's an arcade score. Yeah, I think so. I think now I'm on board with this being a score and being interesting.
Also, we now know why the ghost is going to turn up in the middle of your score. It's because it's in the ghost field.
Yeah, perfect. And because we have ghost echoes, we can do this.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. I do think that we should...
Considering our god is like a time god,
Uh-huh.
does this mean that our committee meeting will in fact take place like in the past? I mean, the ghost field is echoes of the past, right? So maybe we are in fact going to be meeting in some like different version of the temple. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just spitting ideas now, but maybe in fact this committee meeting is in the future of the temple, and we have to like shape.
We shape it.
Yeah.
this is
So-
all gold. I'm not going to cut any of this discussion out.
Okay, good. Yes, committee meeting out of time. That's what's going on. We're having a committee meeting in the future as we shape the future actively.
As you do.
Incredible.
Oh, God.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent.
All right.
I am happy with this. Time traveling occult score housing association meeting.
Incredible. Okay, so let's do the score procedure, and then we can do our asking about gather info and stuff as we go along. So this is an arcane score, so the detail is...
The detail is that we invite everyone to the ghost field,
Yeah,
and then we try to manipulate the shape of whatever happens in there to our advantage.
I think it's a pretty straightforward version of the augury operation. Do what you must to attract the god's attention and counsel.
incredible. Yes. Okay.
So yeah, we're doing an augury type score, and the detail is a committee meeting in the ghost
Yes.
field.
Okay. I'm going to ask you in a second how you get... Because how your ghost echoes works, but we will get to that. Okay. Engagement roll. You start with 1 die for sheer luck. Is this operation particularly bold or daring? You've made a committee meeting bold and daring, guys. That's incredible.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes, we have.
is this operation overly complex or contingent on many factors? Yeah, there's so many factors. I mean, yeah.
Which we don't even know about.
Which you don't even know about.
So.
Does the plan's detail expose a vulnerability of the target or hit them where they are weakest?
I think yes, because
Maybe,
the target now is
yeah.
the other committee members, and I feel like they would be caught on the back foot being in the ghost field.
I completely agree. Is the target strongest against the approach, or do they have particular defenses or special preparations? Not against a committee meeting in the ghost field.
No.
Can any of your friends
Have we
or
told them that
contacts...
this is where? I assume that we haven't told the other committee members that.
They would just have to assume it. We're a holy temple. You know,
Yeah, we lead them on into the sanctum, and we're like, hold hands, everyone. We're going to the ghost field, and then just before they can even say, "Wait, what?"
So you're asking if any friends or contacts are aiding in this. Does anyone else have one? I could propose one. Otherwise,
does it make sense for us to invite someone? I want to push back against this though, because it's our temple. I don't think it makes sense that we can bring in outside help for this.
fair enough.
Actually, like who
Then no.
would who would have better occult expertise on our temple than us? There's no one that makes sense. So
All right, then we can leave it out.
Okay. Are there any enemies or rivals interfering?
Well, they are our rivals, right?
I mean, so
Yeah.
there's two factions kind of here, right? Like, because like the hive is not actively interfering. Sorry, the hive is not actively the target, but it is involved. The hive will be interfering through Begum, and probably, I forgot to mention this earlier, but it's possible that like Elizabeth or Vipihad, or maybe just some goons will accompany the Begum.
So then we're down to 1 die again.
And are there any other elements you want to consider? Well, there is going to be a rogue ghost waiting to pounce on you.
Yeah, and we have our glory incarnate ability that gives us a die also.
Yes. Okay, so that balances out as well.
So we're still on 1.
Still on 1, and I actually think in this case, the difference in tier does not matter, because the way that you are going about the score, the fact that they are higher tier than you and would normally give them more capability to do things is nullified. What the hell are they going to do about a committee meeting in the ghost field. No.
Yep. We are also on our turf
Yeah.
for this.
Oh, you are on your turf.
I want to do something that might give us an extra dice as well.
Okay.
I'm going to be the one who gets entrusted with the job of going around to everyone and telling them, "Yeah, the meeting's gonna happen." You know, instead of like one of those messenger kids, you send Freya, and Freya's going to go over there, and she's going to tell them, "Yeah, they're going to have a meeting, and I think it's going to be." They said something about some sort of special activity, like something that they're really good at. I don't really know the details, and I think the way she's going to say it is she's going to strongly imply that it's going to be a roof ball match. So they're going to come prepared for playing. They're like, fine, I guess we'll play roof ball or something, or I don't really want to play. So they're going to be convinced it's a roof ball match and be absolutely unprepared for what the actual nature of this will be.
Excellent. Yeah. Yes. You can do this. Very good.
It's an action roll.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. I think that this sounds like the kind of thing that's like a flashback. We're not flashing back, but it's the kind of thing that you could introduce as a flashback. So I think that lying to everyone except Hardil is one stress, and then lying to Hardil is one stress.
Two stress.
So I think this is like a two-stress flashback, but it can happen. It is reasonably convincing that you all just solve things using roof ball, and it's not interesting if you fail. Right? So I think treating it as a kind of flashback to give yourself that die makes sense.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Okay, so that's 2 dice.
Yeah, so extra dice.
And because this is on your turf, the way that hunting grounds work is that you get an extra downtime action, acquire an asset for this score. So if that comes up, just try and remember, because I will definitely forget.
We can flashback to having one more after.
Yes, exactly.
In fact, let's write this down.
Oh yes, we write it down.
Okay, shall I roll this? Everyone okay with me rolling?
Okay.
Okay, 2 dice. Let's go. 6 and a 6. Jesus.
Perfect.
It was meant to be.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Okay, this is, I think, the first time ever I have critted an engagement roll.
oh my god, Okay, now is the time that you tell me. How does your Ghost Echoes ability work?
So I wanna go with this idea that it's, the ghost field is weird in Uduasha and just generally represents the world being strange. And considering our god's nature, I think that our version of the ghost field is just it's not that we access ghostly echoes, it's like that we sort of time travel. We can't actually alter the past or the future necessarily, but we can sort of step into past versions or future versions of the city.
Right. And is it like a ritual?
And that is why we can encounter ghosts. Sorry?
No, you go on and then I'll ask.
Yeah, that is why we can encounter quote-unquote ghosts in the ghost field, even though Uduasha doesn't have them, because they're not ghosts. They're just people out of time.
Absolutely. Is this like a ritual, or are you imbued with this power as devotees? What is the specific mechanism by which you get this?
I think it comes down to Abbas having channeled the power of the Udu inside another god's temple. I think that has all left us a little bit loosey-goosey in terms of the way our souls sit inside our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the idea that Abbas has now got some sort of key to this other realm.
I literally have the ghost key item.
Ah, cool.
The reason that I ask is, how are you bringing them in with you?
Yeah, I think what makes sense is we transport the entire room. They will get into a room and then we will just move the room.
Yeah, I have the ghost key as well, so I can just take them as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. I think, so the way that a critical success works when you roll an engagement is that, in fact, not only are you in a good result, you've already overcome the first obstacle. And in this case, what it seems to me is that the first obstacle would be getting everyone safely to the other side. And it seems like what you've done is you've managed it. No problem. Right? So see your guests enter. I think that Hardil arrives last, but that's probably because he's got people watching everyone else. He's only going to arrive when someone comes up to him and says, "Oh, they've all arrived, so you can turn up." You did invite him, right? Like you knew that like he was going to represent you as like a pro bono lawyer thing. So when he arrives, it's not necessarily a surprise to you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not sure what a pro bono lawyer. If we were always gonna bring them into the Coast Field, I'm not sure what a lawyer would do here. But he's here.
Yeah.
Maybe he's here to argue that this is a legitimate place to have the meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what you're saying is we have him here so that he can go. There's no law that
We
says
can't-
you
yes,
can't
absolutely.
make committee
Yes.
meetings in the ghost field.
Great. So does that mean you've told him? Or maybe he's just sussed it out. Or maybe he's just that good. He can turn up and do this even without knowing beforehand.
Yeah, no, I don't think we forewarned him. I think he'll just
No.
be like somewhat unfazed by this.
Absolutely. So Hadbil turns up, and as you say, I think so. Both the Begum, the Sheikh, and Nabila and Rakis all arrive with people who can play roofball as their like compatriots.
Farzana and Rakis, not Nabila.
Right? Oh, sorry,
Farzana
Farzana.
and
No,
Rakis, right?
you're
Not
correct.
Nabila.
That was the mum's thing. So they all come with people who can play roofball, and I think like the way that the message kind of got like across to them was, obviously you're not going to bring an entire team, but we're going to do something. All of us will be on one team. It's going to be an exhibition match. Like nobody's clear. And none of these people talk to each other. The Begum and the Sheikh would never talk to each other. Farzana's too cool to like correspond with these people. Right? So due to this, Farzana comes with her daughter because her daughter is majorly into roofball. And who else, would be appropriate here? Sheikh comes with two people we have actually seen on screen before. They weren't named then, and I don't know if I'm going to name them now. But they were his two bouncer type people who came to his previous roofball party. I think the Begum has come with two of her people from her committee, and part of your critical success is that Hive didn't manage to get anyone in. I think normally the Hive would have sent Upi and Baga, but Upi and Baga have squirreled out of this assignment. So instead, they she just brought her friends. Adil does not come with anyone else. He comes on his own. He's got his briefcase. He's got his spectacles, his watch, whatever. He's like completely at ease. And you stand up, and now you tell me what happens. How do you transport them?
So first things first, I want to clarify because it's funny. I think they show up all ready for roofball with like their uniforms and their leather armor and their like various tools and whatnot. And I think Vickers is going to greet them at the door because Vickers doesn't know any of this like occult bullshit or any of the committee stuff. So she's just the hostess. But I think it's extremely funny that this is the first time we see Vickers not geared for combat and just dressed as a priestess. So, like, they show up with all their roofball shit, and then we see Vickers in a sari, looking just completely in the priestess role.
Yes.
And not at all like her usual eccentric, like, heavily armed dress. I think this is the first time I'm going to be in a light load and literally just be the
Excellent.
priestess.
Very good.
Which probably will take them a little by surprise.
I think it takes them by surprise also because Padmapriya and Padmamukhi have helped you with the sari, and it looks very good.
Yes. So Vickers will just greet them at the door and be like, please come this way. The meeting will be held as this is a matter of grave importance in the Sanctum Sanctorum. And then she will, like, having been tutored by Padmapriya and Padmamukhi, actually, like, properly lead the procession with whatever prayer she has been able to memorize.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's, like, weirdly ritualistic. Like, way more than they expected. Especially from Vickers.
Excellent. Are the rest of you in the Sanctum Sanctorum already?
I think the actual passage into the other version of Udu Asha involves, like, I don't know, Freya kind of sitting in the middle of the circle. And there's probably, like, let's say there's, like, ribbons tied around one of her feet, like her ankle. And, like, the ribbons that are then tied to everyone else's ankles. and then she kind of like takes the ghost key in her hand, and it kind of just looks like a regular, just looks like a big heavy key, and she kind of like then twists it up in the air, clockwise, counterclockwise, over and over, and until like the room itself seems to, when she spins it clockwise, the room seems to spin counterclockwise, and so on, until it just starts revolving until it just stops in another place.
Yeah. And see that you have moved across both time and space, which we know is time. Maybe you haven't moved across space, and this is just a time or a reality in which the falling star did not fall into the ground. The light that you brought in with you is all that is illuminating this place. And you're in a grand, much bigger version of the temple that you currently live in. The stepwell that is in the Sanctum Sanctorum, which we know descends into inky black darkness, in this place seems to go on for much longer. And at the bottom of this well, instead of that darkness that you are used to, there is a flame. And you realize that flame is, in one way, the holy flame that Abbas kind of... So the flame is reminiscent of the flame that Abbas summoned, and for some reason, maybe coincidence, maybe the god is looking out for you, the Sanctum Sanctorum now is kind of like made up for a committee meeting. Right? So there is it's like a large circular table, chairs, ornate chairs next to them, enough for all of you. And as you walk towards the chairs, beneath your feet, the ground kind of like, wherever you place your foot, the ground lets out like a little light, as if reacting to your unnatural presence here. And all of the committee members are incredibly like, what the fuck is going on? Nobody told us this would be happening. Apart from Hardil, who is of course amazing and like, like, seen it all before. I think he's still a bit unnerved, but you won't notice that unless you're really paying attention.
He also has Iron
Yes,
Will.
indeed. You would have to work with Munna, I think. But Sheikh Abdullah, Begum Bashundara, Azana, and Rakis are all like freaked out. Nabila is just like, she's looking around and be like, this is wicked! Oh my god! I didn't even know this could happen!
Mm-hmm. I think Farah's gonna be like, isn't it amazing? Isn't it great? And I think I'm going to take her hand and we're going to go exploring.
Are you going towards the stepwell or away from the stepwell?
I mean, towards the stepwell. Look at that shit.
Okay.
The stepwell is kind of hard to explore, being that it is on fire, isn't it? Like, just point me
yes,
out.
but we also know that like it's a weird, arcane, mystical thing through which like the god can certainly travel in some fashion. Maybe Freya can do it. Maybe Nabila can do it. She has been blessed by the snake, so
I have a question about something I do want to establish before we move on, though. Which is, so Abbas is obviously going to be some sort of like chairman, I imagine, at this committee meeting. Like, he is the holy man. Probably.
Is there like a special designated future spirit version chair for him? Does he have a little throne?
Yeah.
Designated for him?
That's one question I have. But I also the other question I have is like, what is Joan's role? Does she have some sort of official role in this situation?
So, for that, while I'm sure Abbas would love to take control here, like, is he like, has everyone else just decided that since Miraz isn't around and that Abbas is now just the de facto head of the temple?
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Tell you what. I have an idea. And I'll tell you what's happening, and you can then tell me how you react to that. At this committee table that there's nameplates for everyone, right? There's Begum Bushundar and so on. There's the big table at the very end, at the head. It just says Shrine Builder, and then the name tag kind of like rattles, and then sort of just disappears, and the chair itself just disappears. And then there's But like right next to that, there's one that says the Hierophant, and opposite that, there's the one that says Chariot. And the Hierophant chair just kind of like moves to the head of the table.
Excellent.
There is not one for Vulture.
Who was the Vulture again? You said that Abbas was the Hierophant and Vickers was the Chariot?
The Vickers is the Vulture.
Vickers is the Vulture. Joan is the Chariot, I think.
Sorry, yeah.
In your tarot mysticism that you established last session.
I think that, in fact, each of them, when they sit down, they have like their name, and then underneath, written in smaller letters, their own like kind of tarot signifier. They are not necessarily cool enough to have like face cards. Right? Like Begum Bashundara has something like 7 of Bones, and Abdullah has something like another suit that could exist in 6 of Mirrors. I think Adil, when he sits down, it says Stad of Paper. And when you look at his face and you look down at his nameplate for a second, where it says his name, Hardil Subramanian, it like wavers a little bit and then it solidifies back into his. He says, taking control as if this is very normal, he says, I'm here representing the temple of the Eternal Wheel, the Chokroborty on fire, and I call this committee meeting to order.
Uh-huh. Emma, do you mind answering my question about Joan's
Yes,
role?
I was
sorry,
waiting for it.
How do you slot her into this?
I think she is a custodian of sorts. That's her, like, she's a caretaker of the Sanctum Sanctorum in some way. Or generally of like making sure stuff is in the right place, right?
Right. So you are basically custodian makes it seem like you are kind of the person who's supposed to like take these orders. Eventually, right? You're the executive branch, so to speak. You're the person who's supposed to do what is decided.
Mm-hmm. And I think currently, and I've lost the word, she is the person who writes stuff down.
So like the secretary.
Yeah. It's also a word like scribe or something. Well, doesn't matter.
Notary?
Could be. Stenographer. Is the name.
Yeah. Ah, yes. Stenographer. Lovely.
Does Abbas accept his position as Hierophant and head of the temple?
Of course. It's the seat at the head of the table. Of course he's gonna take it.
Mm-hmm. Does he even look at Hierophant and go, what the fuck's that about? Or he's just like, okay.
I think he can tell. Like, I mean, we're in the coast field. Like, even if he doesn't really understand, I think he can tell that that's meant for him, and he's more than happy to take the seat.
Yeah, and
All right.
I think
I love how Abbas is like, it has a fancy title. That must mean it's for me.
excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, Abbas should be heading the meeting, right? Then, like,
No, he should be.
See what
So,
do you have to do this
I mean, Hadil is definitely kind of like somewhat overstepping.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So okay, Abbas stands up and says, "All right, yes, thank you, Hardil, for your words. So we are here to discuss the development of the temple grounds as was established on such and such date. Can we? I guess we'll take attendance. Like, we're all present."
I think when you say, "Are we all present?" the Begum will say, "Miras Chokroborty is not present. How can we have this meeting without him?"
I think Vickers will actually step forth at this moment. Like, she has very little she has no official role here at all. But I think it's cool if she says, "Oh, I will speak for my husband." Because that is a thing that married people can do.
Yeah, that is a thing that married people can do.
She's not going to have much to say, but just for the formality,
Yes.
I'm representing.
Yeah.
A chair materializes.
Uh-huh.
And I think then the Sheikh will say, "Where are we? What is the reason that we are having this meeting in this place?"
Where else would you have this meeting? This is the temple. We are here to discuss the future of this temple. We are in the future of this temple.
Then the Sheikh will say, "Abbas, we are in the future?" He's kind of looking around.
One of the scriptures are a bit iffy on this, but we are in one of possible futures that we are now also currently shaping as.
Incredible. I knew that the Chokroborty was powerful, but I never have imagined such majesty. And then he looks at the Begum and says, "Surely now you must admit that the temple must be respected rather than torn down." And you can see that this is just going to dissolve into bickering if you don't do something about it. And the problem is that like Adil is going to do something about it, so you should do something before he does.
So have they started bickering already? Like,
Yeah. I mean, he sniped at her. She's gonna tell him something like, "Oh, what do you know, you old codger? This is clearly like all new, you know."
Please, we may be in the future. I think Abbas says, "Please, we may be in the future, but this is still a meeting. We will all get our chance to speak, one at a time." So. All right. How should this go? Like, okay, because this is not a normal meeting. Like, I'm not gonna call for people to come out and just, I don't know, make their opening statements, right? Like, we got to do something more. Yes, how are we seeing the arcane stuff coming into this? Like,
I have a suggestion. Since we're going with this whole tarot imagery, like maybe. The first thing everyone can do is like everyone can declare an invocation for the temple. Like instead of an opening statement, they can suggest like a theme. It can be like, yes, bones shall have precedence over this temple, and then that means something. I don't know.
Very good. Yeah. I will just remind everyone that the 3 suits I made up were bones, paper, and
mirrors.
Mirrors. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Bones, paper, and mirrors?
Yeah.
Yeah, bones, paper, mirrors. But I think it's generally cool if people can like invoke,
absolutely.
Generally, instead of going, I propose that we should have more stairs, you can be like, I invoke the aspect of ascension.
Yes, very good.
Or something like that.
Maybe like what is happening, in fact, is that the arcane nature of this place is also influencing the Sheikh and the Begum and Farzana. Like, in the same way as the god was. So they are all like, the longer they stay here, the more they become kind of acclimatized to how weird this is. Okay, so...
Yeah, I think, all right, so...
No, go on.
Right, what I was going to say is that what of us would try to do possibly is interfere with, Begum Warshadhara is trying to speak whenever, through, by tampering with the Coast Wheel somehow. So, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess maybe we can start this off as a regular just open meeting, and we call on people to speak, and then it can get organically weirder.
Yeah.
As it goes.
So I think the way that it'll go is the Begum kind of knows what she wants, and I think she will call upon the aspect of, you know what? I bet in the tarot that we're talking about, there is a face card, which is, of course, the Eternal Snake. And she will just claim, I call upon the aspect of change in the Eternal Snake claim, and basically claim that she's doing the God's work in whatever she's doing. I think the Sheikh calls upon the two-faced city, which is Udaipur. I think normally represented as Udaipur in the Uduvashan tarot, but in this case probably means both the past and the future. And then Hardil is going to be really cool and say something like, call upon the 3 of paper, which only real nerds know means something like control over formal institutions and methods of order. I think he's just trying to be let me get control of everything first, and I can worry about what is actually.
So what do Abbas and Joan call upon?
My knowledge of tarot cards is not very strong, so
I'm just making stuff
You're
up
just
to be
making
clear.
it.
Like you should just
Okay.
make. Like,
Okay.
I also want to say I think Vickers should have a feeling here because you are speaking formulas.
Sure. I want to suggest a move for Abbas just because the idea occurred to me.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it would be very, very badass to just say like, I speak for myself and play the scholar, which is just a picture of you.
Oh, that would be very good.
Like, I don't know what it means to invoke yourself as a supernatural force, but it feels like something Abbas would do, and also it totally feels like the scholar is a legit card. So. Also, I do want to point out that we have just turned this score into Yu-Gi-Oh. We are just playing Yu-Gi-Oh now. But,
I was thinking Magic the Gathering actually. Oh no!
So does Abba say that?
Why not? Sure.
I think when you say it, you lift up this card, and the card is an image of you pointing at the card, which is an image of you pointing at the card.
Oh my god!
Yes.
Terrible. The worst kind of.
It's Abbas all the way down.
Yes.
What about Jun?
You understand? We are already in the future of this temple. And that future, therefore, will not be determined by any need that others have for it, any plans that others have drawn. We stand here within the plan. The plan is drawn for a temple that will not be led, but lead itself, the city. I invoke, therefore, the aspect of the apogee, visible to all, and a guide. And what she's going to do, what I'd like to do actually, is have, when she speaks, one or two very small down feathers fall from her mouth.
Oh.
And she invokes, not knowingly, but it happens anyway, her voice of authority to have those, to have the basically the others from outside who came in accept as fact the truth that, there is already a plan and they might not have that much of a chance to draw their own plans upon the temple. And that's a push action, or a push that you do an action. So I should probably do an action.
Yeah.
That is extremely cool.
It's amazing. Let's say that. Let's think of this as like a clock. Right? So let's say it's a 6-step clock to gain control of the meeting, and when the clock fills, you'll be able to decide something, right? And we will just track how those efforts are going by looking at this clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you're in a pretty controlled position, and I think standard effect is what you'll have before we look at the push. So if you want to push for effect, that'll become. But I think you are currently controlled standard.
All right. I think what it will be is that I push for an extra die and make it risky grade.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool.
What are you rolling?
Pushing for it's a sway action.
Okay. Yeah.
Risky grade. Pushing for an extra die. Using voice of authority as a push ability. You can push yourself to do one of the following, and one of the options is have your word accepted as fact, if only until they have some time to think about it. Yeah, and that's it. Let's see how it goes. 6 and a 2.
Okay. Awesome. I think the words accepted as fact means in this situation that everyone will accept that the temple is, that we are in the future of the temple and so on. But I mean, like Abbas said, it's just one of many possible futures. So we still haven't picked one, but everyone will accept that, yes, this is.
You've convinced
this
them
is
that
what is happening.
This is where you are, and that this is absolutely normal. Obviously this is where you would be, right? And so all that remains to be discussed is you know, like how do we get here, or like which of these things do we want? But like I don't think any of them is now like what the fuck is going on. Now it's like, oh yeah, this is very normal. This is exactly what we expected, right? And it is 3 ticks on this. I'm just going to cut away from you for a second because I'm very curious. Freya, as you are moving towards the stepwell, you and Nabila, I think from inside you, you feel this very strange pull. And it is not pulling you downwards into the stepwell. It is pulling you upwards. It is like to pick you up and take you towards like where in current Uduasha, like, you know, the massive well of Udu mirror would be. But of course, in this future, that doesn't appear to be the case. When you look up and you see a face that seems familiar to you, even though it's actually Joan's friend, Bodan. And he's walking on the air and he's like kind of like just waving at you and saying, come up here.
I turn to Nabila and I point at Bodan and I say, you want to go up there? I think we can. I think here we can do anything.
And I think Nabila's like enthusiastic as fuck. So she's like, of course I want to go up there. That's incredible. I think like because she's in like roof ball gear, she in fact like makes a motion as if to like be like, I'm gonna climb something that I can't even see, right? And Bodan is definitely kind of like only pointing at you. I don't think he's interested in Nabila. So I think that it is likely that if you want her to come with you, you will have to do something to help her come.
Mm-hmm. So Bodan, we have seen Bodan as a ghost in the physical world.
Yes.
Does Bodan look any different in the ghost field?
Yeah, he looks so in the as a ghost. He did become more flesh-like as time went on, as he drained that like energy. But actually now he looks like a regular human being. He looks healthy, hale, you know, just like very normal. And the only thing weird about him is that he's standing on midair.
Yeah. Also, like even if he looked ghostly, I think one of the things about growing up in Uduasha is that you don't learn to fear ghosts.
That's true.
Because they aren't really a part of your life.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nabila probably would have no idea what she's getting into. And I think Freya is... Yeah, I don't really know what's going on with Freya. Let's see how this is going. I don't know this character well. But I feel like this is what she'd do. She'd grab Nabila by the hand. And... Okay, so Bodan's up in there. I don't have the ability to fly. There is a Mirage ability that would let me fly, but I don't have it. So what I'm going to do is... So he's up in the air, and he's in somewhere where normally there's architecture in the way, like in the real world, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take my ghost key, and I'm going to hold Nabila by the hand, and I'm going to jump up in the air, and I'm going to pass in and out of the ghost field so that my feet touch solid ground. Just enough to lift me up onto the next jump.
Excellent.
I'm going to ghost field platform myself up to Bodan.
Great. I mean, this feels a little bit Dishonored, to be honest. In the second Dishonored game, there is like a great level in which you shift back and forth in time so that you can do this kind of.
Yeah, basically that. I feel like this is, even though this is an athletic thing, it is largely reliant on my ability to attune. So I'm going to call it an attune.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think
I also feel that it is desperate as balls.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, there are so many things you are risking here, including like getting weirdly stuck halfway in the ghost field, you know, horrific damage to Nabila. Maybe everything is fine, and then Bodan just like turns out to be something else. You know, there's so much stuff. But I think you can do this. So it does seem like standard.
Yeah, let's do the desperate standard. Cool. Devil's bargain for me?
Oh, Devil's bargain.
I think I want to assist you. And I think that I'm assisting you by making you safer, if that makes sense in this situation. Like, I don't think I can help you go places, but I can help protect you from danger, which seems like an assist could reasonably frame here.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in this whole, like, Vickers has not played any cards because she's not part of this weird game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's going on. But what she will do is, as this conversation is going on, she will lean on the wall of the house and pat it. And, like, she may be a priestess and all, and Abbas and Joan have all of these supernatural abilities, but Vickers is a housewife, and this is her house. And so she'll say, like, as she sees Freya disappearing, she just, like, leans on the house and says, like, I do suppose they're talking to you, or rather about you. It's a little rude. Oh, would you mind keeping Freya safe, please?
Nice. Incredible.
Yeah.
Excellent. Nice assist. I'd still ask for that dual
Yes.
Ragam.
So I was in the process of thinking something, and then like Prince absolutely destroyed me. So give me a second to recenter myself. Yeah, I think that maybe we could. Odan was.
Well, I want for myself.
No, yeah, go on.
To do this, I can do this, but my ghost key will fall into the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say something about Bodan being someone that you had summoned and you had a relationship with, but this is also great.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'll take my one. So I won't lose the ghost key as such.
No, but you won't be able to
it'll
use it for the
be-
rest of this score.
While we're here.
Or like while you're
Yeah,
here.
while
Yeah.
we're here. Okay. Cool. Let's see how it goes. 5.
Oh, good. One. I mean, like actually, no. You had 5 dice, so you can reasonably expect a 6. There was only you had 1 5, and the other 4 dice were all fails. They were the 1 2 1 1. So that's really quite something.
Listen, we have established that Freya is not the best at this whole rolling thing.
Oh.
Mhm.
No. Yeah. No. So I think what happens is that the reason that your ghost key ends up on the other side is that there's a moment where Nabila's not really able to do the thing that you're doing, which is phase in and out of the ghost field, right? So you are mostly helping her just through sheer like upper body strength. And there is a point where while you are trying to help her, you get stuck. And that is because the thing that you are climbing on back in your present, which at this point isn't even in the Sanctum Sanctorum anymore, it's like up a couple of floors, that breaks. That is not there anymore. I think we see you stumble and fall, and Nabila is standing on something that she's not too worried about because she's like, everything is fine. This is what happens here. But you know that like it's very precarious because you've just fallen off it. And you are now stuck, kind of hanging in midair, not really sure how you're going to get back up because there is no ledge where there used to be in order to help you get up to Nabila.
Okay, so Nabila's fine, but I'm not.
Nabila is going to be not, like, momentarily, like, going to be not fine, but she's fine for now. You are absolutely not fine. You are, like, very close to, like, falling several feet and breaking something.
But this is still a success.
So the success here is that you have nearly reached where Bodan is. Nabila definitely doesn't think there's anything wrong. And in fact, Nabila's like now having a conversation or trying to have a conversation with Bodan. Bodan is like reaching down to try and help you, but you have to do something to kind of like reach his hand, like reach out to.
You know, I should resist this. But at the same time, I'm really curious to know what would happen if I fell into the fire.
Excuse me. I beg your pardon.
So, is this in the same room, just for clarification? This is like something that the rest of us can see, or is this far away?
Oh no, I think you can see this because in the ghost field, there is really one large, like you're in a huge great hall kind of which where the stepwell is open to the sky, but where you are is kind of you can see this. No problem.
Okay, yeah, then I'm not going to let you fall into the well. Like, I'm sorry, but I won't. So
I'm sorry,
you can
I won't
resist
let
it
you
or I
destroy
can.
yourself in the name of figuring out what this this
Yes.
game is.
Yeah, but would it destroy me? It compels, it fascinates, you know? Yeah,
I mean,
fine. I'll protect
let's be
myself,
clear,
I
we did just
guess.
find out that
Okay.
apparently people do merge with the god or something. And if anyone was going to be able to do that, it might be Freya. Maybe.
So you resist this yourself and don't fall.
Yeah. I guess it's prowess?
Yeah, seems like prowess to me.
No, it's a physical thing. Lol.
5 stress.
Christ.
Ouch.
Oh, I mean,
This is not. Yeah. This character has not had the best
Oh.
luck. Both in and out of character. Yeah, so I guess I like haul myself up on. Like, what do I haul myself up on? Like, there's nothing here, and I don't have my ghost key anymore.
I
So,
think that what you do is you briefly defy the laws of physics. By the time you think to yourself, what am I hauling myself up on? Or up on something. But the reason that I think this doesn't fully mitigate the consequence is that both you and Nabila are now, through some form of the power of belief, and / or Bodan also helping you in some fashion, you are up here. But you are in a very precarious position. Like, if you try anything else, you are again risking falling, because the only reason you haven't fallen is very hard to deny when you are standing on something that you are in fact standing on something.
well, I'm up here, I guess. Nabila's up here too. Is she having a good time?
She's having a great time.
Is she worried?
Right. She is mostly, I think, like kind of unaware of how precarious the situation is. It's the kind of thing where it's like every time she steps, you're like, wait a second, is she gonna fall? And luckily she hasn't. I think she's pointing into the distance, talking to this ghost who is to her just a regular person about Roofball and how amazing it is. I don't know if Bodan's ever played Roofball, but I don't think like he's very interested. He wants to talk to you, Freya.
Well, he can come down here to where I am.
I think that like if you make that clear, I think what Bodan will do is mark at you and motion to come down in a way that is literally impossible, which is he's gonna climb down a ladder that isn't there. And he will see you and just be like, Your Highness, I was not expecting to ever see you again. I was afraid the disbelievers had caught you.
Oh, I'm not Your Highness anymore. I'm just Freya now. I'm just a regular person. I don't remember your name. I'm sorry.
Of course. My name is Bodan. Of course, you know how we met. I was deeply grateful to you. I attempted to protect the court from the enemies of our god, but I'm afraid that they got the better of me. And I think this is the point that you realize that, like, Bodan not seen everyone else because of, like, his position and the fact that, like, the table is kind of covered. He knows there is something going on down there, but he has not spotted Abbas or Joan, whom he regards.
Has Joan spotted him?
Great question. I mean, it's a question for Joan.
Joan has been occupied so much with the proceedings of the committee that she probably doesn't notice this happen.
Mm-hmm.
At least not yet.
Then I think what Freya's going to do is she's going to say, yes, of course. It was very good of you, Bodan, to protect me from the interlopers. And then, can you keep a secret? And then I kind of like beckon Bodan closer to whisper into his ear.
You anything.
And then I whisper, they're here. I brought them with me. They have no idea that I'm still the queen. Let's go down there and show them what we're really made of, huh? Come with me. Take me down.
I think he turns around and looks at Nabila and then back at you and says, what of this one? Is she also one of them?
She's with me. She's my new... Marion was a failure. She's my new vizier.
Of course, Your Majesty, your wisdom knows no bounds. And I think this is a role, but I think the reason this is a role is not because you can't convince him. It's because Nabila might like interrupt what you're doing. So you want him to take both of you down, right?
Yes, and be taken by surprise when I guess Joan lightning hooks him into oblivion or something. I don't know. Or something. I don't know. You don't have a lightning hook anymore.
She doesn't. She gave it away.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. This is all going perfectly according to plan. Anyway, so long as we end up back where we should have been, we can figure out how to destroy this thing afterwards.
Yeah. So I think it is. I think you're in a pretty controlled position. I don't know if Nabila can cause. Oh no, I take that back. I think you're in a risky position because Nabila could fall and hurt herself quite badly.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it Desperate Great because for a great effect, I think would be that Boran will be totally unprepared for what we do next.
Yeah,
and I think Desperate makes thematic sense here. Like we're floating. This is someone who isn't even supposed to be here. This isn't a member of the committee. This is someone's innocent daughter.
I mean, she's technically part of the committee. She was there when the committee was formed. But no, you're not wrong.
Okay, I'm going to push myself for a dice because I think it makes sense to trauma.
Oh, interesting.
Is this a sway or a consort?
It's a sway.
Makes sense.
It's deception.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming there's no way someone can help.
None of us have noticed this yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just okay. Let's hope this works.
Yes.
Oh, it does.
3 and a 6.
It works.
The push was very important. I think Bodan looks at Nabila and in a moment kind of like changes his demeanor from, oh, I am bored by this person, why is she talking to me, and goes all the way to a trusted friend of my queen, and says, young miss, hold my hand. And then similarly like holds your hand. And casually, like, you know how Mary Poppins like jumps from like a height and then just opens the umbrella and it's like, oh no, everything is fine.
Right.
It's like that. Like he just floats down with the two.
It looks like a diagonal floating motion, but in fact they are on the escalator that exists in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Fantastic. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
Oh, if only Miraz were here to see the escalator. Do you guys see it? Do you guys see the escalator?
I think that anyone who's paying attention can now see it.
Mm-hmm.
Would have to be paying attention.
I want Abbas to see the escalator. I wanted to see it.
Look at it. In fact, I think I will exploit this moment on Miraz's behalf because I know how much he cares about this escalator. So I will work on this clock in this moment, and I will just like, there's Miraz's invention. Isn't it grand, everyone? Shouldn't we have one of these? Isn't it fantastic?
Excellent.
And I will sway to gain committee meeting control by demonstrating how excellent Miraz's inventions are.
It's like the platonic ideal of a escalator.
Yes.
Like Art Deco, it's gleaming, it's gigantic. It's like, Central European subway. It just goes down forever.
Yes. What's my position and effect to do a sales pitch?
Risky standard. I think the risk is
Uh-huh.
to allow someone else an opening after you say this. But you can have standard effect, which is, I mean, it's a pretty impressive escalator.
Yeah, I will push myself for a dice because Miraz really cares about this. And, yeah, I don't think anyone can assist me. I don't think it makes much sense. No one else cares about this stupid escalator anyway.
I can give you a devil's bargain.
How dare you? That better be out of character.
Yes, that is out of character. Vickers cares a lot about it, or rather, she cares because Miraz cares.
She's a good partner.
Doesn't actually understand it.
Yeah.
But...
Yes.
Yes.
I'll give you a devil's bargain, which is this escalator is so perfect that you know in your heart of hearts, Miraz will never be able to make something really that is as good as this.
No. I refuse the devil's bargain.
No.
I have full faith in Miraz. I will just push. I roll a 6.
Incredible. I mean,
We sell this escalator. This is.
I will flag that like it is now 12:30, which is like top.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
Should we end on this cliffhanger when Badan just appears in front of Joan?
I wanted to add something to the cliffhanger where, as part of so I trauma out, right? So I become unavailable. I think the way I become unavailable is that I vanish.
Incredible.
And I emerge back in the present.
Very good.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
And I think that what we see is you point at this escalator, everyone at this table turns around, interrupted from whatever squabbling that they were doing. See Bodan, Nabila, and just for a moment, Freya come down, and then Freya disappears. You can see the shock in Bodan's eyes because his queen has just vanished into thin air.
Yes, I don't think Freya disappears. I think Badan and this girl get off the escalator, and Freya just continues down it out of sight.
Yeah, that's what happens. Very good.
Yeah, great. Rapid.
Incredible. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of where Joan, you see this happen, and it's again I guess a similar thing to the moment where we saw Joan after Daddy Danda walked away, where it's I wasn't expecting this at all. In a somewhat very different fashion, you see this ghost, but also much more flesh and blood than you've seen him since he died back in Scotland. Or you weren't even there when he died. You left him. And he looks at you and he recognizes you. And he lifts a finger and points and says, "Traitor!" I think that's where we're going to end.
I think actually Joan at the same time stands up with long, snaky arms and says, "Fisherman."
And so blows out our brief candle. I named the disciples of the Ceaseless Temple thus, with both their given names and taken. Soumithri, called Tree. Zoheb, called Klow. Prince, Emma, and Aadiyat, called Soap. Intro music, Jalandhar by Kevin MacLeod. Outro music in Kiravani Ragam by Srinivas. Blades in the Dark by John Harper and Evil Hat Productions. Iruvian playbooks by Johnstone Metzger. Follow us at Desperate Attune on Twitter or email us at desperateattune@gmail.com. Support us at kofi.com/desperateattune.
On the next episode of Desperate Attune.
This table around which everyone is sitting with their little place names, about committees or whatever, suddenly breaks in half. But not in an elegant way, in one of those anime ways, right? Where it's split clean in half, and the two halves of the table push away, and the escalator rises, and Freya comes out of it, golden and maybe looking like she's crowned, you can't tell. I mean, surely that's just an effect of the light. But what isn't an effect of the light is Nabila saying, "Oh my god, you're back!" and jumping at you in joy and relief, and Bodan saying, "Her Royal Highness!" and standing up and saluting.
I return and I hug Nabila and I look at Bodan and I give him a nod. And I turn to the others and, let's manifest this crown. Why not? I have ghost image.
Uh-huh.
I am now wearing a magnificent crown. And in fact, I'm wearing raiments. I'm looking royal. And I turn to the others and I say, "Hear me now. The Ceaseless Temple shall be forever present, and it shall pave the way towards a brighter future for the citizens of the Empire at large. Scotland, Iruvia, Acheros, all shall unite, and the temple shall be at the center of it all." And it shall all be as the wise elder says. Follow his example, follow the sage, follow the vizier. And I turn to Abbas and I give him a bow.